tenacity
Of
with which
course.
it presses opposition defense has not been matched by any of the new signings. And I think that's what they need to work on actually. Vets is not really helping in that aspect. And the Kitike is not the type of player that presses that much.
Welcome to another episode of the Let's Go podcast. My name is Samson, and with me today I have Yeka, I have Ahmed, and I have Jade. And up Super Eagles. Please clap for us now, guys.
Don't
God
deserve a
forbid
round
I
of
clap for
applause.
this one. I'm not clapping for
Anyways,
such performance.
On the same
anyways,
day, the likes
it's been
of
an
Egypt,
impressive.
Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal are scoring 5, 7, 6 goals.
Relax
Imagine.
now. Ahmed, why are you in a hurry? Is it
Don't
not to
push
get
me
to
at
World
all.
Cup? Whether we get there first or get there last, it's to get to World Cup.
Okay, so
Calm down.
we are saving our own seven
What
goals
are the
for
chances
France,
of
Abi.
us getting
I
there?
When
have
we face
better news
France.
What
for
are the
our
chances
viewers.
of us getting
Argentina.
to the World Cup?
Okay, since we are talking about World Cup, Nigeria scraped to a win today against Lesotho. And for those that watched the match, it was an hypertensive match. I have to be sincere with you. I saw that match, and
Thanks to
for a
one by
very
the
light part of the match, I didn't know where the goal was going to come until we had a penalty. We
And it's
scored.
always been like that.
Second scored the penalty, and we had the second goal by the I think it was he a debutant
Yes, Aqua
Adams,
Adams.
Akko Adams.
the Sevilla
Yes,
man, scored the second goal.
did the same thing to FC
And the
Barcelona
match looked
last
set.
weekend.
Yes, the match looked set and done. And just keep the game until Nwabali struck, like Nepa, and he gifted Lesotho one goal. And in the dying minutes of the match, he gifted Lesotho another chance. Fortunately for us, Lesotho could not capitalize. And that has been the theme of the Nigerian performance throughout these qualifiers. We struggle. We couldn't beat Lesotho in Nigeria. We couldn't beat Zimbabwe in Nigeria. We couldn't beat South Africa in Nigeria. And now our hopes are not even in our hands. But let me ask you guys, Ahmed, what else did you feel about that performance? It was for me, it was underwhelming.
Well, Super Eagles recently has been nothing to write home. It goes beyond just this now. They've been like that, and again came into the game very much needed. The enough from start to select. Neither here or there, it was just throwing shit at the wall, hoping one sticks. Eventually, yes, there are few things that has to be corrected part of the CAF and because at this point in time, it is a big shame if officiating in Africa is still at this level due to the fact that everywhere else in the world there is the use of VAR technology.
Video, video assistant referee.
There are quite some number of wrong offside calls that went against both sides tonight. But away from that, talking about what we can actually and what is under our control, what's not inspiring at all. In fact, if we are this crappy going through the qualifiers, what we actually should there at the end of the day. So Nwabali was his usual arrogant self. He almost threw away that tie as much as we struggled to get a two-goal lead. He had some very big errors that could have ended giving Lesotho an equalizer late into the game. But fortunately, that didn't come to fruition. But nevertheless, we still don't have our fate in our hands because we need to rely on results elsewhere come the last round of the qualifying match playing Benin at home. They are currently top of the group. I need to
Yeah.
remind how the first leg encounter that is a tough one to crack. I'm not going into that game with enough confidence that we'll get all 3 points.
Speaking about our chances for Nigeria to qualify, we need to beat the Republic of Benin by more than 3 goals and hope that South Africa does not beat Rwanda. South Africa will be hosting Rwanda at home. Nigeria will be hosting Republic of Benin at home. Republic of Benin currently sits on 17 points. They were able to get the victory tonight. South Africa could not get the victory. And, just like that, our fate is not in our nothing stops South Africa from beating Rwanda. The same way nothing stops Republic of Benin from beating Nigeria. So it's just the usual calculator and permutation and combination that we always do for every qualifier, which is quite unfortunate. Moving away from Nigerian football, I want us to talk about a rising star, a Brazilian rising star. He starred for Chelsea against Liverpool. I'm talking about Estevão, and he starred for Brazil yesterday. He's the youngest Brazilian to score a brace for the national team. He's just aged 18 years and 5 months. Yinka, in terms of characteristics, do you think Estevão is the closest to Cole Palmer in the Chelsea team? And should he be
Again,
getting more playing time?
why not? Hey,
Well, the short answer for me would be no. In
draw
terms
now.
of characteristic, based on the way you are asked the questions, in terms of their attributes and in terms of what they have to show when it comes to their individual skill, I do not think that they are similar players. I do think that Esteval is a fantastic player. I think that as a winger, either on the left or on the right, he's able to cause damage wherever you put him. But I also think that he's still very young and he still has, quite a lot to learn. In terms of the comparison with Palmer, however, Palmer is much more ahead in terms of his development because Palmer is also still young, and there are some lapses that he still shows in his game. But what I would say, Palmer, for me, as over Esteval is his ability to play across the line. Like I said earlier, Esteval can play on the left and on the right. I'm not particularly sure if he can play in the middle, that's in the hole. At the moment, Palmer can do that. Palmer can play as a central attacking midfielder of some sort. So, in that sense, I wouldn't say that they are particularly similar. But as time goes on, obviously at 18, I always say that at 18, 17, even 19 or 20 sometimes, a player does not really know his full position or his true position. Over time, when you meet coaches keep trying you in several positions until they find the one that actually suits you the most, depending on the tactical scheme that's available. So over time, we'll see how it develops. But obviously, from where I stand now, I think the sky is the limit for him.
Ahmed, should he be playing more for Chelsea considering the lack of firepower they have in attack?
Yeah,
Currently,
because go ahead.
currently the Chelsea setup is Enzo Fernandez at attacking
Yeah, with
midfield.
Caicedo.
Playing with Caicedo. Then you have Neto. I can't remember who the other winger is. Palmer is injured now. Okay, against Liverpool, Enzo Fernandez was the attacking midfield. Caicedo and Reece James in midfield, while Neto was on the left and Gusto. I can't remember who was on the right.
Liverpool required special attention. You can't particularly use that Liverpool game as a yardstick. Obviously they were playing a bigger side, so Maresca was a bit cautious in the way he lined up the team. But ideally, you would expect Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez to play in the double pivot role. If Palmer was available, probably play in the hole behind the striker, and then you have two wingers. Mostly either what's his name
Neto is a
now?
constant.
Neto, but I think it was what's his name? I can't remember the name of the
I
player.
think before the
But
injury round, there was Pedro Neto on the right, and then Pedro on the left, and Delap in the middle. At some point, after Delap's injury, Pedro moved to the center, Pedro Neto to the left, and Esteval to the right. So a lot will depend on how soon they recover, all options they have. But based on what Esteval is showing currently that he has gotten his chance, I believe going forward definitely give the coach selection edge because he got their winner against Liverpool. That is not a small thing to do. It's a big side, a big game, I mean, and he got a great winner. Such those whose confidence and morale. And earlier today also, I saw their game against South Korea. They won by 5 scored. Brilliant performance, I must say. If he continues with such performance, definitely he will get more playing time. And that is a good idea to have for coaches because you will always want to have plenty of options. And right now, Esteban is rising up to the occasion. The only constant I think they have as of right now is Pedro Neto and Cole Palmer. So I think going forward, if he continues this way, he will definitely get more playing time as the season goes on.
Speaking of the Brazilian national team now, ideally you would expect that the front. I'm not fully aware of the way Ancelotti has been rotating his teams, but you expect that if it's a 4-3-3, the front three will be
Yeah, they played with the 4-3-3 They play with a 4-3-3. They had Casemiro, Bruno Guimaraes, and QI, and up top
Okay.
they fielded Rodrigo on the left, Vinicius in the middle,
Okay.
and Esteban on the right.
Okay, considering the lack of playing time that Rodrigo is currently experiencing, should this continue over the course of the season? And don't forget that Rafinha is also coming back into that team. Are we looking at a situation where there's Estavo on the left, Vinicius as a striker, and Rafinha as a right winger? Because I want to believe that Rodrigo's lack of playing time would at least impact on Ancelotti's decision in one way or the other, except he has assured him that he's going to play the game.
Why not Rafinha on the left and Esteban on the right?
Either way, you can swap them either way.
Even though I think that Vinicius in the middle is basically just wasting him there. But
Actually, he
obviously that
wasn't even stationed there. They had the luxury of swapping between himself and Rodrigo the way they used to do in Madrid. So he wasn't
yeah
constant there.
yeah. I also wanted to mention that their lack of a proper nine is biting them a bit. I can't remember the last proper nine that Brazil produced off the top
The
of my head now.
Brazilian is joking.
And they've been producing more wingers and wide men more than strikers recently. But if they're able to get a nine,
Why?
maybe from the Brazilian league, maybe they would have a bit of more balance up front. But as it stands for me, I do know that individually all of these players are good players. Vinicius, Estevao, Rodrigo, Rafinha, but as a collective, for me, it just doesn't feel right, and that's
It
maybe
doesn't
because
add
of the
up.
way I see football.
Speaking of striker,
Is
I think
Thiago not
Matheus Cunha
Brazilian?
is Brazilian.
Yes, he is, but Cunha is not a
Is
striker,
Thiago
as far
not
as I'm
Brazilian?
concerned.
He was
He
the
got
Cunha
Thiago
is
attacking
not
more of a
Brazilian.
midfielder. He was the
But
attacking
Cunha
midfielder
can
earlier
be
today.
the Benzema. Cunha can be their Benzema.
There's Thiago has
He
come
was
back.
the attacking midfielder earlier today.
Cunha is not even a Benzema. How will you compare Cunha and Benzema?
No, 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 no,
Benzema.
no, no. I'm not comparing Cunha with Benzema. I'm looking at it the way Benzema drifts to the left and Vinicius can eat up space in the middle. Cunha is that kind of player that is very flexible with movement. If you have a Vinicius, Cunha, Rafinha. Cunha allows Vinicius to move to the center forward position and move back. That's just the way.
If you
That's
got
just what I
Thiago
see.
not Brazilian.
Well, that might work. And obviously, they also have Pedro at Chelsea. If he
Oh,
clicks,
Pedro is not
that's true.
striker.
Now, sef na Brazilian.
yeah. But for me, he is also not a 9-9. If you ask
All
me,
this time,
all of, I feel like they
Is
need a
Thiago
bomber,
not Brazilian?
and Pedro is
Have you
not
seen
that
him got
bomber.
Thiago at Bournemouth?
Bomber, I've seen him. I've seen him. I think he's fine as well, but I
that
don't
guy
think
is
he's at
not.
that level yet.
He's not
He needs to
national
International
perform
team.
dating.
more
Qualifying to the World Cup.
more than I don't think he's gotten to
He's
that
even
level yet.
never can tell.
Sorry. Number
He's
one,
not
I
even
think
at,
it might be too late because
he's not at national
in most
team.
cases,
They have Evanils.
Evan
uh, Evan, is that
Evanisi
Bournemouth?
Bournemouth. Yes.
Yes,
Thiago boy
ex Porto.
Brentford. Thiago is at Brentford.
That's true. No, the question is, have these players been part of the setup before?
Yes,
Because
Evanilson
if
has
you were
been
not
part of
part
the
of the
setup.
setup when they were playing qualifiers, I think you have a
Evanilson has
very
been
tough job.
Evanilson has been part of the setup.
Okay, if Evanilson was there, then obviously Evanilson is a very decent striker. But people like Thiago that haven't been part of the setup, it will be hard to take them to the World Cup. Unless, of course, they
So,
can maybe play one
so,
fantastic season or find a way to force their way
so
into the team.
Ancelotti will go to World Cup now and
He
start
can pull a
Evanilson.
Evanisi.
Ahmed.
No,
Evanilson is a striker.
He can
He's
pull
someone
a
I followed right from Porto years. You can't
I
tell
think
me
he's
he's
a fine
not.
striker
forget
too.
He's a very
forget.
good striker.
So you are Ancelotti now. You are Ancelotti now. You have qualified for World
Yes.
Cup. It is Evanilson. You will go and start.
Why me?
You are
But
fielding
he doesn't even
Jimenez.
need to be a
Definitely,
starter.
I would go
Why
with
me
Evanilson.
Evanisi?
He's
If
a
you have
decent
a
striker.
Richarlison in your team, why not Evanisi?
Come on. Have you seen him enough?
You don't like your job. You don't like your job.
Evanisi is not.
I'm not sure you like your job.
There's
Evanilson
there's
is not
also
there
an
yet.
Igor Jesus.
He's a fine
There's also
striker.
an Igor Jesus who I saw at the Club World Cup, and I think I was
My
really
friend,
happy for that.
Igor Jesus
You got
scored.
That guy
Jesus,
is
oh, you
scary.
got John
That
the
guy
Baptist.
is
This guy.
scary. That guy is
Igor
very
Igor
scary.
Baptist. My friend, say something else. Anyways, moving on from national team football, I want us to talk about some hot takes that have been going around in this international window period, and one of them has been centered around the performance of Liverpool. And for the first time in a long time, Mohamed Salah is coming under every critic, and the criticism is that he doesn't do enough to support the team defensively. And quite a number of pundits have echoed that. And I just want you guys to weigh in on that particular point and how you feel Salah's season so far has impacted Liverpool's performance. Let me start with Jinka.
Can anyone hear you?
Yeah, we
I
can hear
think if
you.
you want to talk about Salah's performance and how it does affect Liverpool's season so far, one thing is anything in football. As far as I'm concerned, there is no written formula to game of football that makes you superior to
Are
one
you
of
guys
the
hearing
others.
me?
The basic thing
Yes.
is win. As long as you win, your tactics is perfect. This has been the same Salah from over the years
But they've lost
with
three.
little
They've lost three in a
with
row now.
little
Salah has never been
with
the
little
type that
defensive
does
input
that.
from years back. That's my point. But now that Liverpool are finding it hard to win, there must be something to point at, which is Salah's lack of defensive. Meanwhile, over the years, during the years that Liverpool are going back to back to back to back, this is what Salah has always. The major difference in time is that he has yet to get on song as far as goal scoring is concerned. I think he hasn't contributed in
But
that regard.
Ahmed,
Yes, that's very
Yes, I'm with
criticism.
you.
Last season, there was a Luis Diaz that was leading the heavy press from forward line.
That's
This season, Gakpo and Tlgp have not lived up to that heavy press.
And Florian Wirtz.
I think that
that's
has also exposed the fact that for a while now, Salah has not been pressing that much,
So
which
why
is
is
why
that a
people
Salah
are
problem?
actually
Since you
speaking about
mentioned
it now.
yourself, it is Luis Diaz that was doing it. The board went ahead and sold Luis Diaz.
But Salah is part of the attack
Who
now.
will not
Why are
replicate
you
what
excluding
Luis
Salah? Is
Diaz
Salah
the
not
was
part
last
of the
person that
attack?
will be asked to press in that Liverpool team. It should be the last person that will press in that Liverpool team.
Because of
That's not the Salah problem as far as I'm
because it's
concerned. It's
Messi.
just usual faction
I
of
agree with
Is it
you.
football
Messi?
Salah should be the last person that
critics
will press in that Liverpool team.
looking for where to point fingers at.
Just
This is not the
Is
Salah
focus on
Salah
problem.
pressing on Salah.
Messi? You can't let me hear from you.
Well, I think I agree with Ahmed to a large extent. Salah has always been like this. He is not known for his, would I say, work rate off the ball. He doesn't really contribute much defensively. He's not the type of winger that you will see bumping up and down or attacking or pressing very high up the pitch. What it does give you is something that you know that you cannot do without. That is goals and assists. And as long as he keeps delivering that, you tend to overlook the fact that he does not, contribute much defensively. Now, because he's not contributing those goals and assists as he would normally do, it then becomes obvious that okay, he's also lacking in some other areas. But what I think Liverpool should do is focus on the things that they were doing that covered up for Salah's lack of defensive contribution, which was the other players. They've replaced Diaz. They've replaced who was their striker last season now? What was Darwin Núñez and whoever Jota. Darwin Núñez, Jota, there were many players that were rotating in that middle. Darwin Núñez, Jota, Gakpo sometimes, they've replaced all of those players that were pressing seriously. They've moved Gakpo more to the left. And I think that they've lost a lot in terms of how they pressed as a collective unit by bringing in Wirtz, moving Gakpo to the left, and then obviously Salah that doesn't press before.
Another issue
So I
is
think what they need to do,
it was a big part of their pressing.
that's true. So what they need to do is try to recover all of those players that covered up for Salah's lack of defensive contribution rather than focus on Salah. Also, I think that just like I can't remember the pundit that said it earlier. Salah has earned the right not to press. To be honest, it's almost like Messi in his latter days or his when he was approaching the end of his Barcelona career. He stopped pressing. But Messi literally walked on the field as if he was feeding everybody on the field. And that was because everybody knew that the moment he got the ball, he was always going to make something of it. And I think that to some extent, Salah has earned that right. Also because he's 32, 33 years old, if I'm not mistaken. You have to manage his energy at this stage of his career. You cannot expect him to spend 90 minutes pressing, pressing, pressing. And then when he has the ball, he's already too tired to make, sensible decisions with it. So you want to manage that energy so that when he does get the ball, he's able to be decisive as he's always been over the years. So what Liverpool need to do is focus on getting the 10 remaining players to
Are they
contribute
missing Trent?
defensively. Sorry?
Are they missing Trent?
I don't think so. Trent was always a liability defensive. If they're
But he
missing
gave
Trent,
them
maybe,
results going forward.
but they're not struggling to find goals, are they? I don't think they're struggling to score goals. I think their problem has been defensive issues. Even without Salah's goals this season, they've been one of the top scorers in the Premier League. I don't think that goal scoring is really the problem. The problem is that they keep conceding like fouls. So if they keep conceding like that, no matter how many goals they score, it's always going to, there's always going to be that problem that, okay, you're not going to, there are some games that you'll not win. If you look at their games, about 4 or 5 games this season, they scored in the last 5 minutes or last few minutes of the game, and they've had to, basically grind out the win. Not grind out in the sense of struggling, but grind out in the sense of they've almost lost the game or they've almost drawn the game, and then someone just had to, pull a rabbit out of the hat in the last minute. So in that sense, that they've not really been struggling to score goals. The problem is that they've been conceding a lot. And I don't think that if the problem is defensively, they've really missed Trent. They have.
Okay, so defensively now, is it a structural problem or a personnel problem?
Well, I would say it's a structural problem. Yes, some of these players have grown a year older. In fact, all of them have grown a year older. Virgil van Dijk, Konate, Frimpong that they brought, who I think is not that good defensively, by the way. But he was quite good under Xabi Alonso's system
He was a right winger
because
who was made into a
Right
right back.
from the
He was originally a
exactly.
right
So
winger.
he's not good defensively. And another person that I believe that has gone under the radar would be Milos Kekes. I don't know if I got his first name correct. Kekes has not particularly settled at Liverpool. I know he's a very good left back. He contributes defensively, contributes in attack. But since he joined Liverpool, he has not been the Kekes that we got to know when he was at Bournemouth.
Was his
So
introduction too early?
it's not too early. They
the
bought him for
players
50 million. You can't say that it's too early to introduce a player that you bought for 50 million.
If you ask me,
Personally, I think,
it
I
is
think
more
his
of a
introduction
personal
was
so
problem.
you
too
cannot
early.
say clearly
I
to
think it is
the
more of a personal problem because it has always been the same system. But now they have a couple of new elements that are yet to adapt into the Liverpool system. All at once,
No,
there is a
I
Perisic,
don't. I
there is
don't
a Frimpong,
particularly agree
the
with that.
there
problem
is a
Liverpool are
Kekes,
having is that they are
there
not
is
winning games now.
a Igwe Kitike.
They
All
have
at
not
once,
found
all
the
trying
formula to
to
start winning
get
games.
into the
As soon
system.
as Salah gets into his shape, then every problem will be solved. I don't think it's a lot of problem.
No, personally, I think it's a system problem. If you the reason that Liverpool have always gotten away with this, in my opinion, is because they pressed really effectively from the front, from the attack. And because that pressing system is no longer as it used to be, and obviously I've mentioned that they've replaced a few players. The players that they have there are not particularly bad because if you look at their attack, for example, how many players have they replaced? Maybe two, and I'm talking about Vets and Ekitike. Those are the two new elements that have started consistently for them. They still have Gakpo, who knows the system. They still have Salah, who knows the system. So it's a matter of just getting these two new elements to key into the system. And these players are not bad players. You cannot tell me that Ekitike cannot press or Vets cannot press. In fact, West comes from Germany, German football. He should understand the pressing basically, as far as I'm concerned, because they press a lot in that league as well. So it shouldn't be something that is not particularly
But
used to. So if the coach is able to get these new players to understand the system, then I think that the sky is the limit. It relieves pressure on the defense, it relieves pressure on the midfield as well, and then hopefully leads to
you would
less
want
goals
to agree with me
conceded.
that as abysmal as Darwin Núñez came for Liverpool last season, none of these new signings have actually been able to match his pressing rate. The tenacity
Of
with which
course.
he presses position defense has not been matched by any of the new signings, and I think that's what they need to work on actually. Vets is not really helping in that aspect. And the Ekitike is not the type of player that presses that much. The same thing with Alexander Isak, even if I believe that he's a wonderful player. I think Liverpool need to improve on their pressing actually. That's how they have actually succeeded in the past years. That's what we know them for. That's what kept them going under Jurgen Klopp. And the slot came in and kept the same philosophy. So I think their problem now is that they are not pressing from the attack. They are not starting their defense from the attack. As soon as they get it going now, everything will fall back into shape for them. And Salah needs to get back into his mood. That's the only problem that I think they have right now, more than the press itself. As soon as Salah gets back into his mood, every problem will be solved.
Looks like we've lost Samson
Yeah, since
and Ahmed. All right, so we're talking about Liverpool and their defensive issues. This is I'm also of the opinion that Florian Wirtz needs to sit down a few games. Possibly if they're able to recover McAllister to
his
his
personal
best level. Maybe put him in that Florian Wirtz role, and hopefully it
I
should
agree with
improve
you
their
that
pressing
Vett is
as
the only
well.
misfit in that
But
starting line.
Can you guys hear me?
yeah, I do think that if they take Vets
Yes,
out, it will be difficult because obviously it costs about 150 million. But if you take Vets out of that, out of that starting 11 and replace him with a McAllister, for example, or even a Soboslai
yeah,
in
Okocha is
that starting 11, I think it improves their pressing
yes,
by
and
a lot. And once they're able to press well from attack, it relieves
thinking
pressure on
about
the
the
defense.
transfer fee has cost them some points, some serious points. So they really need to put him on the bench. Let him come from the bench and see how it is done
Can you
from
guys
the
hear
beginning.
me?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Sam.
Well,
Putting a player that you go for 150 million is risky because even if the coach wants to do it, I think there will be pressure on him
It might
from the
not be
board
what he
because
needs.
it's mad investment and you do not want that
It
investment to
might be
go
what
down the
he needs.
drain.
Tunja at a
The best.
point, you might have to put him on the bench oh, at the way it is
It's
going.
No. From
But
a
that
tactical
continues playing
perspective,
evaluation to
obviously,
the team.
if that's the way forward, yes. I'm just saying that the board would not look at it
Darwin
from a
Nunes sat on
tactical
the bench last
perspective.
season.
The board would mainly look at financial.
Last
He
season,
sat on the bench
they
last
enjoyed
season.
the midfield of Gravenberch, McAllister, and Soboslai. Those three guys they're like six people in the midfield. They have energy, they are
Their
creative,
work
Hard
rate is out
workers.
of this
they are
world.
hard workers, and they are creative also. They have goals in them. But this season,
Zoboszlai is about one of the most
for
technical players in the
fitness
Premier
for fitness issues and trying to accommodate Ved, he has brought a lot of imbalance to that team. I watch him sometimes and
They've
he
had
tries
to
to
use
do some
Soboslai in
half
right
turns.
back.
And I know somebody needs to tell him that in England, the football is very fast. Before he makes a quarter turn, like two people are already on him. And he loses the ball and the team is under
Yes,
pressure.
has been
I think at some
disappointing.
point
Has been disappointing.
he might have to go to the bench, learn from the bench, and work his way back into
That's
the
just
team.
it.
Until then, Arsenal
To
are
be
top of
difficult,
the
sure.
table,
But they really
and
need to do it for the team.
I'm not saying they don't need to do it. I'm
Let's see
saying
how
it
it
will be
goes.
difficult.
If
yeah,
they
of
want to
course,
continue losing points,
it will be difficult. It will also be difficult
Don't put a
because Arne
145
Slot
million
is
pounds on
not
the
a
bench.
Jurgen Klopp and is not a
you can continue
Guardiola.
playing him and lose points.
Probably in world football, those are the
I
two
mean,
that can bench
you're,
anybody.
you're even looking at 145 million. You're not factoring his salary into it. That's a lot of money that they've invested in that player. Even if the coach wants to do it, and I know that the coach has the authority to do whatever he wants to do on the field. But at some point, I'm sure that there will be murmurs and they will be like, you cannot continue benching it. You have to find a way to make it work. Because
And if
obviously we
Jimenez
discussed
is
with
getting
you
back to
before we
back
got this
chances,
player and you gave us the go ahead to get this player. So if you've given us the go ahead to get this player and we've gotten it for you for 145 million plus salary over next 5 years or thereabout, then you must find a way to make it work. We're not just going to sit down and allow you bench him after you've told us to buy him. So that's what I mean by it's going to be difficult. He can do it. He can do it for, say, maybe 5 games. But for a longer stretch, I think that there will be murmurs and they will start telling him you have to make it work.
Well, we hope he makes it work for his own sake. Still on hot takes that we've been hearing in the international break is that there is a media narrative against us. Yinka, do you agree that there's a media narrative against Arsenal to win the league?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by media narrative. I don't know if you mean media narrative in the sense that the media is against Arsenal winning the league or that the media tends to overblow everything negative that happens with
Overblow,
Arsenal.
overplay
Um,
negative.
okay, if it's that one, I think every club suffers that. I'm an Inter fan, and I complain about that a lot. And if we're being honest, I think every club, has that. It depends on where you are in a season or where you are in your project. If you're not particularly doing well, it's easy to overblow certain negative things. If you are doing well, most people do not have much to overblow, because even if there are negative things that they can point at, they would know that no matter how much they point at it, the positive is just going to, cover up whatever negative that they point out. So there's no point. But when you're not doing well, it's easier. Now, for us now, to be honest, I think it's easier in Arsenal's case because number one, Arsenal's name sells. I wouldn't say sells papers, but it sells. I mean, if you're on a podcast and you mention Arsenal, you're more likely to get people's attention than
They
say
are
you
traditional
mention
family.
someone else or another club. And I'm not saying that these other clubs are smaller. I'm just saying that because of, for lack of a better phrase now, the banter value that Arsenal's name has as a club, it's easier to overblow certain negative things. It also does not help that they have a fan base that actually pushes or that used to push some of this negative stuff. And I'm talking, for lack of, for the fear of lawsuits and what have you. I'm not going to mention the name of the podcast or the name of the show, but we all know the Arsenal show that I'm referring to. When Arsenal was deep in their banter era, this show lived off this negativity. In fact, they put it out there for people to see. It was comedy, it was prime banter. So you cannot push it out there now, and then after we've accepted it and turned it to a norm, and they start complaining. Especially when we know how well it does in the media or how well it does with the fans.
Sure.
It's almost like Barca now. Barca with what they've had to experience over the last couple of weeks, or what they've had to experience in the Champions League last season against Inter. It's easy to banter them because they're not particularly doing well. So, do they have a bit of extra negativity in the media? Yes, but every club also goes through it. I just think that it's easier for us now because their name sells and their fans are easier to trigger.
Looking at the Arsenal, do you think they are finally picking up pace, or should I say they are finally getting a hang of this new squad that they have?
But they don't have a choice. Arteta does not have a choice. For the first time in
Sure,
say
guy.
5 years, it's hard for me, and I know that they still have a few weaknesses in that team. But when you look at the weaknesses that they have compared to other teams, say Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City, is hard to argue that Arsenal should not be among the favorites for the Premier League this season. So Arteta does not have a choice. He must find a way to get a hang of it, especially because they've been second 3 years in a row now, if memory serves me right.
Yeah.
For the first time in a very long time, they actually have a very solid squad depth, if you ask me. I mean, this team has been playing without Havertz, and largely, for a large part of the little time that we've had in this season, without Saka as well.
I know they
At some point, they had to do without Saliba, if I'm not mistaken, and it didn't really show. That's to tell you the type of depth that they have. They were able to call on Mosquera, they were able to call on Noni Madueke, they were able to, obviously, they've got Gyökeres. They can easily plug holes with players that can play multiple positions, filling in multiple roles when needed. So I think that in terms of depth, they do have the squad. Whether they will be able to make use of it is what I do not know. Because I still think that squad is too emotional. I saw them against Newcastle, for example. There were so many needless things that Gabriel, for example, was doing that I felt like if you really want to win the league and if you want to win games consistently, you have to forget some of this drama and focus on the match, because they will get to a point in the season where opponents will start targeting you, and your reaction to those targets, so to speak, might be the difference between you getting 3 points or 1 point or 0 points. So, do they have the quality? Yes. Should they be doing as well as they are doing, or even better? I think so as well. Will they do so? I guess that's left for everyone to see. We just have to wait and see.
Finally now, who do you consider the best midfielder in the Premier League currently?
I think I need time to think about that. Ask
Best
Ahmed first.
midfielder in the Premier League currently. Who should that be?
Best midfielder in the Premier League.
I don't think there's anyone.
Let me help you.
Let me think.
You can do it
Is
now.
it like best midfield combo or best midfielder, single midfielder?
single
in the
midfielder.
Premier League.
Gravenberch,
Let's do elimination chamber. So I'll mention two players. You mention. You tell me one. Are
This
you
one's
guys?
that.
Do what?
I'll mention two players. You tell me the one that is better of the two. So, Caicedo, Tonali.
Caicedo.
Caicedo for me too.
Caicedo, Rice.
Caicedo.
Caicedo,
I value control a lot in football, and I think that Caicedo has more control than Rice in midfield. Rice is more of a runner than Caicedo, and I know Caicedo runs as well, but Caicedo still has more control, so I think I'll go with Caicedo as well.
Caicedo, Bruno Guimaraes.
Caicedo.
this season Caicedo.
I like Guimaraes, but again, control. Caicedo.
So we can Caicedo Gravenberch.
Gravenberch actually has control.
Gravenberch,
I think I'll still go with Caicedo.
Still
Caicedo.
Caicedo.
So we can agree that you believe Caicedo should be the best midfielder currently in the
I
Premier
agree.
League.
Wait now, have we mentioned all the midfielders?
Who
You've not
else?
mentioned Bruno Fernandes.
Bruno what?
Wait now, let me think about other midfielders. Calm down. Let's see.
Fans are sleeping
Than
peacefully.
Caicedo.
watch out for season 2.
There's Rodri. There's Rodri as well now.
Is he currently
Rodri has
performing?
been injury.
Rodri is in
Rodri
and
has
out.
been
Rodri is
playing.
injured.
There is no.
Reinders, Rodri, who is the other person in that their midfield?
The only other person you can think of.
I
The only
guess
other
it would
person
have
you
to
can
be
think of is the
Caicedo.
Chelsea player Enzo.
I-
That's the only player that is performing consistently in the Premier League.
Aha.
Yeah, I guess it would have to be
It's
Caicedo.
Caicedo.
Those are the top. We've mentioned the top performers. For now, it's
Unless there's
But
someone
not
you're
missing
missing.
Nah, I don't think so.
Or you want to say is
Who is in Tottenham?
You want to
Say
increase?
who?
Who is in Tottenham? Somebody
very
is in Tottenham.
This is Paul. This is about.
Are you playing? So at least we can agree that Caicedo is the best midfielder in the Premier League. For now, even though
According to JD and I,
according to
Ahmed
JD,
thinks it's Gravenberch.
because Posco's pick Tonali as his best midfielder anyway, and he's entitled to his.
A few other
opinion.
people might go with Declan Rice, obviously because it's English.
Right.
Anyways, it's been a nice time on the
It
show
is
with
top
you
form
guys.
this season.
So
It's been a bit slow. He has not gotten his mojo. So I would just go with Caicedo. Caicedo
can
has
you guys hear me?
Inca,
Where's Samson? Sorry?
closing remarks.
All right, so I think there was something else that Samson wanted to mention, but I can't remember what it is. But it looks like we've come to the end of the show today. I've forgotten what I wanted to say. I don't know why I'm just short for words today. Well, it looks like we've come to the end of the show today. We've lost Samson towards the end. Thanks to everyone that has been with us from the start of the show till now. I know that sometimes we can be very boring. We do apologize for the technical issues that we've had today. I promise you that we're working really hard on solving most of these technical problems, and eventually we're going to get a hang of it and ensure that we do not have these problems going forward. For those of you that would like to follow us on social media, we're present on TikTok, we're present on Instagram, we're present on Facebook, as well as X, formerly known as Twitter. So feel free to follow us. Also, we appeal to you to please engage our content on YouTube. It really means a lot to us, or it would really mean a lot to us if you engage our content. But until we meet again next week, bye from myself as well as Ahmed and JD. Bye everyone. Catch up.